Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, January 20th, and you're listening to the Daily AI Show live on YouTube and LinkedIn, and also playing on Spotify. If you're here with us live, shift on over to YouTube because that's where the full conversation happens with everyone who can see everyone else's comments. That chat stream on YouTube's better than all. And you can also join us in the Daily AI Show community.com. And there's a free Slack channel and ongoing conversations about AI. Staying abreast of the rapidly changing news and information you need to know about AI is a daily habit. You have to do it on a daily basis. You can't wait a week. It'll be very difficult to catch up that way. So invest the 30 or 40 minutes that you need here. We typically go as much as an hour, but you'll find that the top 30 minutes of the show is always pretty interesting. And if the conversations engage you, then you might stick around for the rest of the time. I'm joined today by Jyunmi Hatcher, and there'll be others who join us as well. And so let's kick it off with some news items. Jyunmi, do you have one that you want to share?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Well, before I do my AI and science for the day, there's a couple of quick stories coming out of Reuters. One of them is that UK lawmakers have urged regulators to run AI-specific stress tests and issue clear guidance for firms using AI in core functions like credit scoring and insurance processing. So more AI stress tests for financial services. This is part of the larger push over the last couple of years for basically the EU AI Act and getting a little more transparency on how AI is being implemented and how it's going to affect the EU as a whole. And another quick one from OpenAI is that they've partnered with ServiceNow, and they've entered into a multi-year deal that brings OpenAI models into ServiceNow workflows, aiming for more end-to-end automation inside enterprise systems. So this kind of goes along with the deals that OpenAI has been making with various organizations. And this is part and parcel for the large foundational AI model companies to either enter into a long-term relationship or partnership, or just subsume other components that they've been looking for to provide their larger platform. And I'm not sure if anyone has mentioned it as of yet, but been slowly streaming onto my feed is the inevitable launch of, and I haven't checked a free version yet, of ads in ChatGPT for the free tier.
Yeah, I haven't seen it and probably won't, right? I mean, ads are not going to populate the people who have the Plus account.
Yeah, for now anyways, yeah.
Yeah, all right, cool. Well, thanks for that. I want to shift over to, I think, what is sort of global news about AI. As you may know, the World Economic Forum is underway right now in Davos, Switzerland. And the CEO of Microsoft addressed the World Economic Forum, and his comments at Davos are framed around his view of what the world competition is. And he addressed these remarks specifically to Europe and what Europe needs to do in order to shift to become more globally competitive. And we're not talking about just AI, but you'll see how central AI is to that. We're talking about how do these nations and or spheres of influence maintain competitiveness economically in the world. And his core message is that the countries that have AI productivity generation will be the ones who have the lowest effective cost of energy to support compute. And, just to simplify it, it's that GDP growth in any place, he says, will be correlated with the cost of energy used to deploy AI. So what Satya Nadella is saying is that GDP is now slaved to AI productivity. But at the same time, we have this big open question about whether AI productivity is actually all that. Like, is there real productivity happening? And I'm going to give you some evidence that indeed it is. But he said, look, AI outputs, the tokens that are generated, are a new kind of commodity. But tokens are sort of equivalent to energy, right? To process a token, it costs energy. And there's also capital investments in the infrastructure, the hardware that's necessary to do that. And every economy's job is to turn cheap tokens into productivity and growth in their economy using AI and robotics, etc. And so to do that, every competitive group, Europe, the US, the South Asian countries, etc., have to have cheap, low-cost energy. And so energy policy is industrial policy. That's the new framing that we're hearing at the World Economic Forum. And now, why he addressed his comments to Europe specifically is that Europe, post the Ukraine war, has among the world's highest energy prices. And he's arguing that, look, Europe's spending a lot of time thinking about regulation of AI when they need to be focused, purely on driving down the cost of energy for their AI productivity gains. So, and he says that this is tied not just to the tech world. This is not AI productivity only for technology and software development. It has to be delivered to all of the, sort of base industrial operations of a nation or a European community, et cetera. And so if the cost of energy and the token generation and the productivity of AI is not going to see gains in those areas, then we're in a bubble. But he doesn't believe we're in a bubble. He's just saying, but that's how all of this is interconnected at this point. So there's an argument in my own mind that the bubbliness right now is, and I've seen this argument online articulated better than I'm going to phrase it, but it's because of the underpricing right now of AI inference. There's a mismatch right now between the cost of build out and delivery of inference compared to what we're paying, right? That cost is much greater than what we're paying right now. And so if that didn't change, then there would be a real bubble here that's going to pop. But currently, though, the cost of supplying inference tokens using GPUs far exceeds the revenue that's being generated and the underlying productivity improvements that are available from that AI output. We've just seen from CES, like the Jensen Huang announcements about Vera Rubin reducing by 90%, basically, like a 10x improvement in the cost per token of inference when you implement Vera Rubin compared to the current state of the art, which is the Blackwell series. So that's something. And then Tesla is also, there was a headline today about Tesla is all in on chips now. And so they basically, Elon Musk announced that the AI5 chip is now ready to produce. And he's going to do what he calls terascale chip manufacture, chip fab. So he's going to build fabs like, the gigafactories. He's going to have a chip fab, which he calls the terafab. And that's going to build out the Tesla line of chips that are focused on training and inference. AI5 is the current generation. He has a roadmap out to AI9. So this progression in the cost per performance of inference is basically a promise that there will be orders of magnitude improvements in this ratio of cost of inference to productivity. And now I'm going to share with you, if I can get this on my screen, I'm going to share with you an illustration of just how much the model performance is improving on real world tasks. And to do that, I need to explain what the GDP val benchmark is. So GDP val is something that OpenAI developed. And what it is, it's a test of AI against 1,320 tasks. And then there's a 220 task open gold subset that are derived from actual work products like legal briefs and engineering reports, support transcripts and care plans, etc., across all these industries that cover 44 occupations in 9 industries, that each of which delivers more than 5% of US GDP. So that hence the GDP val test of an AI. It's the question of whether AI actually has an influence on the productivity output compared to humans on GDP relevant tasks out there in real labor markets. Okay, so now here I'm going to get to the sharing of the screen and now show you what just a small, where is it? Okay, we're going to find it here. I have too many tabs on my thing. Here it is. This is called the GDP val, and this is what the graph of the performance looks like. Now, you remember how recently GDP-5 came out. Now, look at what a dramatic increase in the performance on GDP val was achieved by GDP 5.2. So this number here that you see up here, 72%, says that GPT 5.2 at least tied human experts in this array of real productivity related, GDP related tasks. 72% of the time, it at least tied human experts and exceeded them in others. So, and that's a huge leap from what GPT-5 was, which was only at 39%. So it basically doubled, right? Just the tuning of GPT 5.2 compared to GPT 5 doubled the performance of productivity on real world GDP relevant. That's right, GDP relevant tasks. Wow, I don't want to ever have to talk about GDP and GPT at the same time again. But anyway,
well, it's OpenAI's naming convention, as confusing as possible, right? Yeah.
So that's the story right there, and I tried to kind of capture what was whirling in my mind after reading about Satya Nadella's comments at the World Economic Forum. AI is taking over the world. Let's just be clear about that.
Yeah, and you brought up a lot of good points, or a lot of highlights where they seem to be shifting that focus, or at least awareness of infrastructure. Right? There's been a lot of talk about just awareness of AI and how useful it is. So that's where this eval really comes out of. I'd love to see a use case lists and things like that. I know you listed out a bunch of different factors, but I'd love to see it on the more nitty gritty kind of thing, and they may have that available. But it gives a clear indication of the value to businesses, and that's probably one of the main reasons to put that eval together. But to just go back to the narrative around the power infrastructure and bringing awareness to a situation that we've had to be dealing with for the last a couple of decades anyways, is the global power grid is not very strong. It's not very resilient. We saw a couple of years ago, like the Texas grid got wiped out by a really bad winter. And that integration or lack of integration to the larger national grid, we've seen rolling blackouts over the last number of years. So it's not it's been an ongoing issue, or there's been ongoing issues with the infrastructure. And if we're going to be implementing AI, especially with more data centers and more hardware coming out, and like you said, Tesla's doubling down on chip fab, that's just more power requirements. So the comments that he made really shines a spotlight on this. Seems to be the most important thing right now. So please pay attention to this part, and taking steps to try and build that out a little better. Considering it needed help anyways, this might be that driving force to put more investment into that infrastructure as a whole.
Yeah, the essential nature of what the AI revolution is about is shifting to a kind of an electric grid approach to a move away from fossil fuels, towards a more electrified productivity framework, which is using AI and robotics that are powered necessarily by some raw source, hopefully a combination of renewables and nuclear as opposed to fossil fuels, if we want to continue to live on this planet. And then let's also keep in mind that those productivity gains that AI delivers, those, in my mind anyway, and I hope somebody can challenge this way of thinking about it, those necessarily come about as a result of the reduction of human employment. So exactly. The productivity gains, the GDP, per capita is going to increase dramatically to the benefit of shareholders in the enterprises that achieve these gains in productivity. But those gains in productivity come about in large part because AI replaces humans. And so there are fewer humans in the denominator. Okay. And that's what's giving rise to the productivity per person employed. But if you look at it in terms of productivity per human on the planet, not necessarily the same level of gain that you're going to see in the outcome of all of this. And so now I'm going to shift over to an interesting other trend that we're observing here, which is the Claude code driven route of software as a service companies.
Right.
So there's been a flurry of interest in Claude Code recently because Anthropic has built a platform that's now accessible to every layer of the enterprise and to each of us individually to do coding of productivity applications, and a software as a service like Salesforce or Adobe or Intuit. Those companies made productivity applications. I can do my tax returns faster. I can do my accounting faster and easier if I use QuickBooks. Those are productivity applications. But now there's increasing evidence that pretty much anybody in the company or you individually can build your own application. You don't need to subscribe to these software as a service companies. So software stocks have held these very high valuations and importance in our industry because of predictable recurring revenue. But that breaks down now because AI can build custom tools inside an enterprise on demand. And there's, you've read about the examples of, the head of Vercel, did a complete code project that, the team was spending a year on, did it, using Claude Code and, delivered it, that kind of thing. Whether this is really the beginning of a complete elimination of software as a service, because these self-developed software systems are, now possible. There's no doubt that traditional SaaS companies are facing a major disruption, and it's showing up in the stock market. So specifically, the Morgan Stanley SaaS Index, which captures those stocks from those major software companies that I mentioned, like Intuit, Adobe, and Salesforce, is down 15% year to date. That's this year. 15% since Claude Code hit the newsstands over the holidays. And those three specifically are also, each of them are down double digits as a result of the emergence of Claude Code and this rationale that there will be selfware. Like, we're going to see companies build their own software rather than subscribe at high cost to these software as a service companies.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting observation or trend, like you said, and this is definitely something that I'm in alignment with. I think Claude Code and just coding assistance in general does help do that initial, at least the initial jump to a certain level of software development for whatever your particular use case is or your specialized use cases. But I recently saw a story from Nate Jones where the part that he focuses on is this idea of, for the business, it's a matter of finding out the amount of time invested in that process of the what did you call it? Software or self-service?
Selfware, yeah, selfware. That's not my coined term. That's not. Yes, that's. I think that came from TLDR or something.
Gotcha. So
or the Rundown. I think Rundown did it.
Rundown. Okay.
Yeah.
So
actually, the headline for the Rundown AI newsletter is Claude Code sparks the selfware era.
Selfware. Okay. So, yeah. But the interesting point that he brought out is the amount of time to, it becomes a question of your use case, or it's important to realize what the use case of your selfware is, because you don't want to be spending, from the business point of view, you don't want to be spending the software development time or your developers, your cadre of developer hours or whatnot in, hey, let's rebuild Slack, or hey, let's rebuild X, Y, or Z, because you should be spending those resources on improving the thing, the core thing about your business, or what is scaling your business or growing your business or whatnot. So I think there's a little room in there to more clearly identify where this selfware kind of lives in your business's ecosystem, or at least where it starts. I have no doubt that within the next few years that Claude Code and other coding assistants will get us to the point where it'll be software on demand, or selfware on demand. It's like, oh, I need these features, build it, and then by the next day, it's a complete, SaaS product or whatnot. So yeah, it's just one of those clarifying bits, and I think there's a lot of a lot of discussion space for those concepts and where those trends start and stop, or maybe transition to something else.
Yeah. So Anthropic, the creators of Claude Code, that's driving much of the productivity gains that would come about as a result of selfware. That's in the roadmap ahead of us, right? That's not yet happening, but they just published their 4th economic index, which does take a look at over 2 million Claude chats that are being, and Claude historically, like if we look in the rearview mirror, has been largely used in enterprise. It's not a consumer favorite. ChatGPT is that, right? But Claude has found its way into companies because of its competence on the coding side, for sure. But anyway, their fourth economic index has the following kind of productivity validating outcomes. Right? So it says that AI is handling around a quarter of tasks in 50% of all jobs, up from 36% of all jobs last year. But this is not eliminating this is not eliminating the humans in those firms. It's just taking on a portion of the tasks, right? So the software, revolution is going to replace the people who used to work with the SaaS systems, and instead you can imagine an agentic network of teammates that are working using software that's been developed internally, but is driven by agents more than humans. So that's in the forward-looking thing. So the second takeaway from the economic index from Anthropic is that tasks requiring high school skills sped up to 9 times faster using AI and 12 times faster for college level tasks, meaning the harder the task, AI provided a higher level of acceleration compared to what humans' pace was. So there's a massive increase. This is just to average it out at 10x, right? Tasks at the high school and college level, which is typical entry level work for people in companies, those that using AI 10x their speed in delivering. And then Claude's ability to handle longer tasks continues to increase, and Anthropic's data showed a 50% success rate for tasks as long as 19 hours. So they're analyzing the chats that are going on, and some of those chats, including with Claude Code, are running as long as 19 hours by the agent, and with a 50% success rate. And of course, that number will go up higher. And while coding is still dominant in Claude's usage, it's shifting now. It's shifting because not only are the coders who were using it to do coding using Claude Code now, and newly, as of last week, Claude Cowork to do non-coding related tasks on their systems and in their lives. And I have some examples of that. And I saw in chat, I think it was, I forget who, but we go back and check, but somebody said, really enjoying Claude Cowork after my first day. So it's finding its way into those spaces. So these are all positive indicators of productivity gains that are essential to the improvement of the bubble equation that worries about the high cost of delivery of AI compared to the outcomes. But here we see a lot of indications that when used well, AI is delivering productivity gains that aren't related at the moment, that aren't related to removing humans from the equation.
Right. Just more of it as an enhancer.
Right.
I think that's an excellent trend to identify. And this is from Anthropic's, you said their fourth.
They publish an economic index showing what the impact of AI is on the economy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think these are great mile markers to keep an eye on what trend or direction that we're going in. I wanted to take a second and bring up this comment from Gwen. How will self-aware, and this is a question for you, Andy, really, is like, how will self-aware make cross-company information, i.e. Data sharing? I've got a couple thoughts on it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that question.
Yeah, self-aware, using Claude Code, you could easily spin up either an MCP server that provides access to all of your data, or you could, publish. You could ask Claude Code to publish an API, a pay to play API access. So Selfware is capable of replicating all of the different ways that you can work with data, including cross-company information sharing, which I think the model that Anthropic's put forward here is MCP.
Right. Do you foresee I guess trend wise, do you foresee a more opening up of that data sharing, or more siloing? These technologies like MCP does allow you to, but it's more about sharing your own information. So I wasn't,
yeah. I think there is an aspect of this that SaaS companies provided, which will not be available to companies that build their own internal CRM tool or Salesforce management tool, et cetera. And that is the SaaS companies learn from all of their various subscribers, just like a consultant who's working with multiple companies brings knowledge from all of those practices across multiple companies and can deliver that value of information and or refinement of the SaaS product, for example, in that case example. That won't happen, right? Because you're not going to be supplying that tool to other companies with slightly different requirements in the way that a SaaS sort of standardized model delivers to customers, but also with customization. So you don't get that transference of information, or let's call it a hub and spoke network that has at the SaaS provider a comprehensive, more exhaustive view of what the requirements are across multiple customers. You don't see that anymore. So that could delay the sort of the improvement, but I think that there will be sharing mechanisms for agents in that model. And that's the solution to that. It'll be, in order to have access to other published skills, if you will, skills advancement inside the MCP Claude skills kind of ecosystem. In order to have access to that, you've got to publish your own skills. So if your implementation of your Selfware generated, some points of friction, which you solved with the addition of these capabilities, then you publish that. And then your agent has access to a wide range of other such skills in your industry or in this functional domain.
Right. So it looks like, Beth, you've joined us. What do you bring us?
So I have some thoughts about the Selfware conversation that you guys were having. First of all, like everybody else, I get the YouTube ad, and the YouTube ad that I got when I was just checking what was happening on the show was a woman saying, "Oh my God, it's amazing! All I do is I just tell what I want, and it builds it for me." And now Replit does it with an agent. Like, it was hilarious. So there you go, Replit. You got an ad in YouTube and also on the show. Call us. But I think that Gwen's point in the chat about like what happens when you leave, right? What happens when like you've built your Selfware? Does it stay with the business, or does something happen when you go to another business? And we've talked about this before, because we were talking about, like, does the business, if Karl has this relationship with ChatGPT Pro and then leaves, and ChatGPT Pro stays in the business because it's a business account, is it value for the business, right? Like, that's a personal relationship. That's a relationship that he's built with his Pro account at that business, right? So the idea, I think, is challenging. It's almost going to be, I expect it's almost going to be a buyer's market, no, a seller's market for
Mm.
individuals who are elite in their use case, and because it is a self-aware thing that they've become elite with, they will be able to move to another organization and have that. And it's even a little bit more, I think it's even a little bit more personalized than like the ChatGPT Pro example, because what I have personalized isn't reliant on the data, right? I don't have to take the data with me if I'm moving from this organization to another organization. I take the way that I worked with the data with me in the selfware, in the systems that I built.
Okay, so I guess I'll modify the initial question that I was posing to Andy. I see. Okay, so first of all, baseline data is pretty much the most important or most valuable thing that we've got now, right? That's what everybody's trading on. That's what it's turning into, a value piece or a value, it's a commodity kind of thing. And that data is used in numerous ways. So as we become more and more aware of that, companies already siloed their individual data, their company data. And with this self-aware, with this skill set of interacting with AI that has its own data, is there a is the thing that the current hurdle is to develop a process or system that neatly packages or silos your own interactions so that you can take or derive that the value of that data or interaction. I mean, data is pretty information, and every little thing we do is a piece of information that can be analyzed, right? So is the next hurdle or step to be able to cleanly make that portable or mobile, to in the sense of moving it from, point A to point B in terms of changing companies or even geographic regions, on a certain level. So is that kind of where all these components or these trends are kind of leading to, where we're going to have more siloing or more walls in how data is moved around? I mean, internally understand, be interconnected to all your sources and sharing and drawing upon that information. This is where like MCP, an API, sharing that kind of access, skills. But does this trend towards more siloing and more building upon portability and things like that?
I have a slightly different vision of what will happen because of the way AI can provide, in the context of a self-aware, a sort of balkanized environment. Like, we have a whole bunch of different self-made tools, but each one of those tools can have an assistant built into it that can explain everything about how it works and give you detailed instructions on how to interact with it. So that makes things inherently more portable than siloed, right? So the AI already exposes documentation, in effect, right? So there's built-in documentation in any, or should be, like there should be built-in documentation. And not only that, a built-in knowledgeable assistant that is a part of any large-scale self-aware implementation that's being applied in an enterprise, at least. Okay, so if it's not just for a couple of people's use, if it's going to be a system of record in any way, then the AI is going to be able to make that in such a way. And by the way, there might be economic incentives for a company that's built a really comprehensive tool for a specific niche industry to say, Okay, I I don't see, because we have kind of geographic territories here, and you're not likely to try to take over my geographic territory. I can sell you a
Right.
copy of my thing, and you can have it. That gives me a little bit of extra capital. And if you don't have the tools or the skills internally to build your own, then I'll give you mine. You just pay me a one-time, $100,000, and I'll use that for R&D on something else. So I think that AI makes it easy to surmount some of the issues that you might see by the sort of the removal to the dark corners of software development that's not centered around SaaS companies, for example.
I think it's going to be interesting because I don't know how, like 100,000, my brain immediately goes, oh no, that's too much, right? 100,000, you can pay an intern to do this kind of thing. So I think the economics of it shift a little bit. But I am thinking
you might
about
be right,
Karl.
but there just may be companies out there who just don't have the wherewithal,
right,
the intellectual capital to do it.
Well, I'm thinking about Karl working with the construction companies, right? And what he's told us about actually what he's learned is like, no, dump it all on a data lake, and we'll just give you a layer on top to be able to pull that data out. And that may be something like that is, I mean, it's not software as a service, it's 0 to 60 where as a service, right? Like it is a layer. Oh, Karl should also hire us to talk about him on the show when he's not here. Another ad. But the idea of that being that it's not about the data being siloed so much as it's about the interface with the data being personalized, whether that's personalized to me or personalized to a small company that doesn't have anybody who wants to deal with that, right? I think it's less about the data and more about the interaction with the data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some interesting comments about just kind of capturing, the ideas surrounding this conversation, and the thing is, I'll share this one. I think that I think gets to the heart of it, and this is from Greg. Let me see if I can click on it. There it is. Problem is, what we have is for us individuals. I mean, we're talking about selfware. If you build something for yourself individually, not what fits for others, which is the current SaaS model. So a SaaS company goes out and tries to build something that is going to be embraceable by a wide range of the market. And by contrast, if you're building selfware, you're not attending to that issue at all. You're not trying to make it generalizable. It's just purely custom to your own internal processes and your own requirements. And so it's not extensible in that sense to others. And so we're building for ourselves individually. That by its nature doesn't make it generalizable or embraceable by some other company that's even a short step away from your particular requirements and your definition of the business. So I think that's really what we're talking about is does the selfware revolution that's foretold here in the decline in the stock value, which is about the future growth prospects of SaaS companies, right? Is the decline of those generalizable functional frameworks for important components of a business enterprise. Is the self-aware approach going to make this not shareable at all because it's so customizable? There's no shared information, and that goes back to what Gwen's original question was. So what about cross-company information sharing? Like, what happens to that? and to what degree does that happen in a competitive market? Or, where is the great value in cross-company information sharing? Interesting questions. All of these things are very disruptive to the status quo of what business form is at this point. So we have no way of really forecasting what the eventual impact will be. Although I continue to be an optimist about the benefits that will accrue to enterprise as a result of the incorporation of AI, and pessimistic about the impact on humans and quality of life as a result of that.
Yeah, that is sort of the elephant in the room, who's always sitting in the room, right? In all of these conversations. I wonder about the shape of data, right? So data exists, and then there are things that are built around them. One of the things that AI does well-ish is infer things based on an empty shape, right? Infer things. I don't have access to the internal data, but I have access to and this will be small enterprise, right? Like it would be a tiny niche or a tiny action that an enterprise takes, that a corporation takes in context. But AI can deliver, I don't know, it's the fake data that AI delivers based on public available information enough to be able to build something that's useful. And I don't really have an example of this, but there's this feeling that I have that hallucination is based on probabilities and shape. And if what I want to create is a service for your customers, do I need to know anything more than what I know about the service to try it? It's very inexpensive for me to try to build something based on a service that I see you're doing. And one of the things that you see on X a bunch when people are talking about why, I don't know what to build. I want to build. Everybody's like, oh, I'm losing my chance because Claude Code is amazing now. And one of the advices is just go on Reddit and see what people are complaining about. Like go to a existing SaaS or whatever, see what people are complaining about, fix those, build it, and see if people jump. And that even without knowing a ton more data, you haven't lost as much as that company has sunk cost in to change something.
Right. Okay, this is a total weird tangent, but when you talk about how Claude Code is emerging here at the moment, I suddenly remembered that in my Claude desktop app, in the code tab, right? So I'm in Claude Code, and I did something there a couple of different times, once last night and then once this morning, and Claude improbably said, put a little clickable button in the response thing saying open in anti-gravity. What? Why would Claude put open in anti-gravity? Anti-gravity is a Google product, which is like Claude Code. Why would I open in anti-gravity? I am dumbfounded by that. Why is that happening? If anybody out there has any idea why Claude Code is doing that to me, and it's like a
did it work?
Button. It's a formed button, like with the anti-gravity logo on it and everything. Or maybe somehow Google has figured out how to hack its way into Claude Code, and so there's this button to open it in anti-gravity. I don't know. Oh, look, Gareth says it happens to me. I think if you're saying the same thing,
maybe it's a back-end connection that they have, an integration that they have with anti-gravity. Did you go through the process though? I guess that's my question. Did you click on the button and did you see what happened?
No, I haven't tried it. It was so antithetical to what I was doing in Claude Code to go suddenly jump over to anti-gravity. And Gareth asks, is anti-gravity your main browser? And no, I just have anti-gravity on my machine, and the app isn't even open to my knowledge. But nonetheless, in Claude Code, it's offering to open that application and use it. I don't know.
Well, but isn't anti-gravity like a more dense IDE, right? Development, what is it for?
Integrated development environment. It is that, and it's like Claude Code. I mean, if there's a Google version of Claude Code, it's anti-gravity.
But is it like Claude Code? Because I think Claude Code is just the interface for Opus, and I think anti-gravity and Cursor and those kinds of things are a little more dense in their interface. Like I don't know that Claude Code.
Okay, so let's just make the comparison then again between Claude Code in desktop, not internal, because you could argue that because it's running in terminal, Claude Code, or when it's running in terminal, Claude Code is not a full IDE. It's not, right? It doesn't have all the niceties of Cursor or anti-gravity, but the underlying functionality of Claude Code and anti-gravity are essentially the same. They're about long-running agentic coding. That's what each of those does. So that's why I don't understand why I'd open an anti-gravity. Although you might be right that Claude's generously saying, look, my Claude desktop interface is not as sophisticated as anti-gravity. So if you want to do this in anti-gravity, you've got that on your desktop. Let's open it up.
It would be an interesting way to shift in your tokens. Like if you hit your Claude limit, it's like, well, I noticed that you have anti-gravity here. Do you want to try that token limit?
That's very kind of Claude. Yeah.
No, I don't think they're doing that. And I do think that that people, I haven't seen it in terms of anti-gravity, but people do switch. I've hit my limit. Now I'm going to go and use my tokens in Cursor, right? I'm going to transfer the product. Andy, I think Claude Code doesn't care what you want to dress it up in as long as you're engaging with Claude Code. Like, that's literally what I think. Like,
are you thinking that Claude Code can be run inside anti-gravity?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't have thought of that. I would think that you'd be using Gemini if you're in anti-gravity, but you might be right.
Gareth, try it out for us. Let us know. In the community. Speaking of which, if you want to continue any conversation that we have on this, like this particular one, go to the Daily AI Show community.com and join us for the conversations in our Slack community.
Yes, thanks for that, Jyunmi. And I think we'll wrap it up here. But if either of you have another thing that you need to declare, yes. Oh, we've got the AI and science thing.
Yeah, let me go through this AI and science for today. Coming in from the Science Daily, the European Society for Medical Oncology, the ESMO, their research has published a machine learning model that unpacks why cancer outcomes differ so widely across countries. Instead of modeling the individual patients, the team modeled national performance using a cancer mortality to incidence ratio, or MIR, which is often used as a proxy for survival rate. They used the GlobalCan 2022 cancer incident and death estimates for 185 countries, with health system indicators from multilateral sources, including measures such as GDP per capita, universal health coverage, radiotherapy centers per population, workforce density, and out-of-pocket spending. They trained a cat boost gradient boosting model with repeated leave one country out validation using SHAP method to quantify which factors most influenced each country's predicted MIR. The model showed strong out-of-sample performance. Globally, GDP per capita, radiotherapy capacity, and UHC were the largest contributors, but the driver mix varied by country, which the authors argue can help tailor policy priorities. So why does this matter? Global comparisons have long shown large survival gaps, but they don't always translate into what we should fund first, type of guidance for any specific country. This work tries to turn global data into country-specific, interpretable hypotheses for health system investment, while noting the analysis is ecological and non-causal by design. So essentially, they built a machine learning and type of AI to read all of the research around the outcomes of cancer treatments and see what of those kinds of systems that contribute to have the greatest impact on cancer survival based in each nation. So such as, does universal healthcare type systems have a greater impact? And so those kinds of things. Does the quality of healthcare or the number of healthcare facilities, per capita, or how many per citizens increase, those systems increase their survival rate? So a lot of interesting information coming out of there. And of course, using it to provide guidance. It's like, well, based on this data, our AI model says that if you increase X, Y, and Z, you're going to get higher cancer survival numbers. So this is less on the treating individuals and more on the systemic approach to healthcare. So we'll see what comes out of more research from this angle. And so that is my AI and science story.
Wonderful. Well, I have a closing tidbit that's scientific and has import to AI. And that is, I read this morning, and I can't locate it quickly, so I can't give you the actual reference, but there's new research that has taken advantage of quantum physics, not quantum computing, but quantum physics, and a state in quantum. Beth, you're shaking your head. Did you see this? It's about the translation of the heat that's generated by the electronics in AI. One of the biggest problems, part of the energy consumption of a big data center is cooling down. That's why they want to put them out in space, so that these things can be in zero temperatures, right? But cooling down those systems because of the heat generated by the chips, running energy through them. Well, this research uses a different quantum state that manages to change the thermodynamics. Like, I don't know, I'd have to do some more research into this, but it's a breakthrough that has import to the future of cooling using quantum technologies, so that you could take the energy that's translated to heat and translate it back into electricity. That's what happens. So instead of it just being heat that you have to dissipate, it actually does a return circuit using quantum state manipulation that takes the heat and makes it electricity again to go back through the data center. That's interesting. Like
that is really interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, I will be investigating that one more thoroughly. Because it was so fascinating to me that quantum can be, the quantum technologies aren't limited to quantum computing, obviously. Right. They can be applied in many different ways, in transformative ways for us. All right. Beth, do you have something that you wanted to throw in? Are you good?
So I will just throw in a story that I saw, and I'll put the link to it in the community. It was someone videoing their mom, and their mom has been functionally blind for decades, using the meta glasses and shopping independently in a grocery store. So like literally her mom can see shapes, right? So she can pull it up and she can feel that it's in front of the glasses, and the glasses like, tell me what am I looking at, and what's the price? And the glasses say, you're looking at this, and this is the price. And her mom was like, this is amazing, right? It's transformative technology. So
Excellent, excellent.
A little AI for accessibility and as accommodation, because there's some real possibility there.
Wonderful. Okay, on that bright note about our future, we're going to wrap it up for today. We're on time. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Jyunmi, for joining me today. And everyone in the chat, another great contribution. We read that, and we really enjoy all of the commentary. Join us again tomorrow, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. on the East Coast. And also join us in the community, the Daily AI Show community.com. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Aloha.